fans. Welcome back to Allison's Art House, where we take things around the house and turn them into art. So this week, I am going to show you how to make a flower magnet using recycled aluminum cans. So it's pretty simple. Fortunately, aluminum cans are easy to work with because they're not a very heavy metal. And so you can use pretty much anything you have at the house. So the first thing I did is obviously force my family to consume a nice wide variety of different carbonated sodas. And because I wanted a variety of different color cans, you don't have to do that. For this project, you can actually just use the plain back of the cans. So like if you have all the same kind of cans, and then you can use Sharpie markers and you can color, and that will give you color too. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to have the different patterns and the different slogans on them, so I went with colorful cans. We come back and we clean them out really good and then let them dry on the inside because I don't want to be working with sticky, gooey, syrupy cans. So they get cleaned, and then I take a pair of scissors and I cut the top off, I cut a seam down, and then I cut around the base, and that's it. Just a regular pair of scissors. Now, one thing I did notice is that sometimes it's hard to start it with a pair of scissors, so I used an ice pick. Be very careful. And the other thing about cutting aluminum, you need to be careful about the splinters because there will be these little aluminum splinters and they can get into your skin and they hurt. So just be really aware that there are those little splinters, and I used a wet rag and cleaned them right up and they were gone. Okay. First thing I did after I did all of that is I made some patterns that I wanted to cut out. It's easier if you start out with a pattern, that way you're not just free drawing on your aluminum cans and then you don't get frustrated and then have to redo it and all of that. So I made patterns. I then transferred the patterns onto my aluminum, just like that. And then I cut them out using my handy dandy, just everyday scissors. Now I am going to say, these are not my favorite scissors. I don't dislike these scissors, but I did not use my best good sewing scissors on this because it is rough on the scissors. So just know that if your mom or your dad have a favorite pair of scissors, or if you sew and you don't use your sewing scissors. Sewing scissors should never be used for anything other than sewing. My kids say. All right, so I'm going to cut this out. So just cut around the shape. And it's, I mean, you can see it is so super easy for me to just cut it. It doesn't take anything. Let me cut this way. So you can see. I'm just going to cut around it. And listening to the beautiful music that I have selected just for you. Cutting. See, I'm almost done, and because I obviously keep random stuff, I'm going to keep this little scrap of metal aluminum in this bag. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I may never find anything to do with it. Worst case scenario, I'll recycle it so it can be used, it can have another life. So that's the centerpiece. The other thing that I used for this was a set of hole punch. Or a hole punch. It's not a set, it's just one hole punch. And now it's shaking. Okay, so works perfectly on this. So I cut this out just like that, and I am going to punch a hole right there. Let's see that. On all of these. So I'm going to punch that hole right there. Punch my hole. This is just right in the center, and then I'm going to punch a hole in the center of these leaves. Now I made leaves for this magnet. I didn't make leaves for this magnet just because I was playing around with this one trying to figure out how to do it. but I kind of liked the contrast in the colors here. And so I'm gonna want that piece in it though. Okay. So now I have holes punched in all of these pieces. And I have cut in just a little bit on these flowers. And I punched a hole in that flower, you can see. So this flower is a hole too. The next thing I want to do is I want to bend these, I'm going to get a little closer. I want to bend these petals so that they have sort of that, that bent flower look to you. So I'm going to bend it up, and then I'm going to roll it so that it is curled, and then I'm going to bend it here, and how to get that bended there, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to push down and pull up with my fingers to create that kind of bent shape. So I'm going to do that with all of these. Obviously, I flattened my cans, and I did that by rolling it on the edge of the table, kind of like you would a piece of paper if you roll a piece of paper and you didn't want it to be rolled anymore. Because like I tell my students, paper has memory, and it's going to stay where it wants to be. So I'm going to bend these up, and as I do this, I'm kind of pushing them behind the petal next to it so that they have more room on one side, and then pulling it out on the other side. So they kind of overlap a little bit. See, it's kind of like your whole body. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to just do a little push and bend here, similar to what I did with the other ones, only on a smaller scale. Okay, there's that. And then I have this one. Do the same thing. And these will all fit together. Right. Now this one was a little trickier, and I played around with it. So the first thing I did was I bent it and gave it a crease in the center, like that, on all the petals. And then I did that little bend thing right there, so that it has a little bit of shape, like that. And then I went in and I decided that I wanted where it comes in, I'm going to push in a little bit so that there's a little bit of a texture to my leaves so they have a little shape. The next step is to take we're done with our hole punch, we're done with our ice pick, done with our templates. I'm going to set that aside. I'm gonna keep my scissors. I have a magnet. I happen to have just a million magnets sitting around for whatever reason. I have two buttons. One is, and it doesn't really matter, you can have whatever kind of button you want, but one is a button that's kind of like this. Because I happen to have a ton of buttons. So I just picked out the coolest looking buttons that I wanted, and I liked how this contrasted. I am going to tie a knot. Okay, let me show you this because this is the part that confuses people. So my grandmother taught me to tie a knot by holding it, wrapping it. Wait, no, come back. No, you must come back. Okay. Hold it together, wrap it around your finger twice, and then roll that tail into the middle of it. And I do want kind of a nasty knot, not a really pretty, because I don't want it to pull through the button. So I'm going to put it through the back of the button so it stops. That's what I want. I'm going to take that button and I'm going to put my leaves on, and then I'm going to put on my orange petals. I'm going to put on my blue flower, put on my yellow flower. Oh, it seems like a lot going on there, huh? And then I'm going to take my red button and I'm just going to put that through that hole. And then I'm going to go backwards. Put it through the yellow flower, then the blue flower, then the orange petals, each of them, and then through my green leaves. And then finally, I'm going to feed it through my, there you go. So, spread these out. One of the things I discovered is that these little petals, especially the ones on the back, like to overlap. So that's what it looks like. Yay! So now what I'm going to do is I pulled these both through. Pull them both like that. And I'm just going to tie a really tight knot, just like that. I don't want the big nasty knot that I have there because it's too big and my magnet won't sit on that. So I just knotted it, traditional knot. Then I'm going to cut off those tail ends. I have sticky back magnets. If you don't, it's fine. You can use a magnet that is regular. If you have an old magnet at home sitting on your refrigerator that you don't like, you can repurpose that. So I'll put my magnet on there, and that's it. Mother's Day is coming up. This would be a great idea for mom. You can turn it into a magnet, you can turn it into a brooch, you can turn it into a paperweight, you can turn it into all sorts of things. But all you have to do is, or all you need for this, are a couple of buttons, some aluminum cans, and needle and thread essentially. And everything else should be pretty easy. All right, I will see you guys later in our next edition of Allison's Art House, where we take things from around the house and turn them into art.